I love cameras, specifically film cameras. It was something I'd always wanted, especially as I have a keen eye for old things. And my godbrother, who did a concentration of photography at his high school in New York, whenever we would hang out, he would always drag me into camera stores to look at the old cameras. It's always funny to think about how life is subtly but surely leaving you little clues throughout your life to tell you what it is that you're going to be obsessed with later on in the future. I am definitely someone who believes that most things in life are happening for your benefit, that life is happening for you and not to you, mostly. And just seeing all the subtle signs that photography played in my life definitely reminds me of that. And so today, I really want to talk about my current roster of cameras. It is my dream to have a very specific lineup or a specific roster of cameras that I can just sort of go to and that act as sort of like old faithfuls in a way. These are going to be the cameras that I work with throughout my career and act as a consistent lineup, along with examples of photos that I've taken with them. I'll also be discussing cameras that I used to own and cameras that I do intend to add to my roster in the near future, explaining both why I let those old cameras go and what I hope to gain with the new cameras that I'll be adding to my collection. So the way I've decided to section this video is to first talk to you about the cameras that I own currently, and then we'll move on to the cameras that I used to own, and then we'll talk about the cameras that I intend to add to my collection in the future. So I guess we'll start with the camera that I owned first. It is the first film camera that I purchased, although this isn't the first one that I purchased. Let me explain. I've gone through a host of these cameras for various different reasons, but I've had, I want to say, maybe 3 to 4 different versions. One of those versions is currently even owned by my cousin because I gave it up because I wanted one in mint condition. Either way, the camera that I'm talking about is the Pentax K1000. I love this camera. I love this camera. I love this camera. It was the first camera that I ever gotten. I'd gotten it after doing a bit of research. When I first decided that I wanted to get a film camera, I've decided on the Pentax K1000 because I wanted something that was durable, easy to use, or beginner friendly, and was versatile in what it could give me. The fun fact about the Pentax K1000 is that when it was first introduced, it was like the camera that a lot of journalists use. It's very quick, it's very fast, and it's also good for both portraiture and street photography. It was just something that was very all around and dynamic for its time. And so when I was researching through whether I wanted to get like the Canon A1 or the Pentax K1000, ultimately, I just decided on the Pentax because, as I said, it was very versatile in nature. I knew I eventually wanted to start doing portraits, but it was perfect for just starting out and just sort of doing a little bit of street photography to sort of like start the process. Here are a few photos that I've taken with the camera. I'll start off by showing you the first photos that I started off with, and then also some more recent photos, as again, it's still in my current roster, it's still in my current lineup. It is my preferred camera whenever I do a shoot. The Pentax K1000 is always present, and I've honestly just decided that Pentax is probably my preferred camera brand. I don't know, man. There's just something about the Pentax glass, the lens, that I just absolutely love. It gets it right every single time, even during moments where I'm not sure if the focusing is right or if I've got it measured out correctly, because I'm very stubborn and I don't really like metering, even though I probably should meter more. I don't really like to. And so the Pentax is very forgiving in terms of, light, in terms of just focus, in terms of everything. It gives me exactly what I need, and it saves me every single time. Here are a few of my favorite photos I've taken with this camera. And as you can see, or at least in my personal opinion, these photos are absolutely amazing. They are my favorite photos of all time, and not just ones that I've taken with this camera. And yeah, if you're looking to get into photography, I would absolutely recommend getting the Pentax K1000 or any Pentax to be honest, the Pentax K1000 is definitely a great camera to start off. It's very durable. I have not dropped it a lot, but I have sometimes been a little iffy with it. and it's always been great. It's always been good. It was, again, one of the reasons why I decided to get the camera, because I am clumsy. So I needed something that was going to be I needed a tough guy. You know what I mean? Like, I needed a tough guy. Actually, I need a tough girl, because for me, Penny is a girl. Yes, I do call her Penny. So yeah, Pentax K1000 was my first camera, and yeah, I have absolutely no complaints about it. And while we're on the subject of Pentax camera, I guess I'll just also show you the other Pentax camera that I own currently. This one is the Pentax IQ Zoom. It's just a basic point and shoot. I don't know. I bought this once I realized that like Pentax was just a camera brand for me, and I was just gonna like stick to it. Even though I will be talking about this later, but like, even though personally my favorite automatic camera is a different brand, I just sort of picked this up for like $15 off of Facebook Marketplace, because at the time I needed an automatic camera and the ones that I had broken. But it's a basic point and shoot camera. I don't know if I have any developed photos from this one. I think they're all still like in the bottom of a box somewhere. But yeah, it's water resistant, zooms. It's a pretty, basic point and shoot. There's nothing really like special about it, but it's a cool camera. It gives me like vibes from the 90s, and I really like it. The next camera we're going to talk about is the Minolta X700. Here's the thing. I've taken some really great photos with this camera as well, and I do intend to keep it. However, I do have a particular issue about the Minolta brand in general. I love Minolta cameras. They're not as, I would say, as clutch as, for example, the Pentax brands that I really like. But Minolta is very efficient. It's very sturdy. It still has its own kind of like grittiness to it. I don't know. One of the reasons why I ended up getting the X700 is because it was a camera because I needed something that was more durable, but like less like important. At the time that I got it, the only other camera that I really had I had a medium format camera, which I'm going to talk about later. I had Penny, and then I had this, and I had a medium format camera and I had Penny, and I wanted a 35mm camera that I could just sort of play around with and didn't feel so worried about potentially dropping it, breaking it. I wanted like a good old boy that I could just sort of take around with me and not be so scared about possibly like breaking it. And so I got the X700. It's like the body is plastic, so it's not, again, I don't feel like I don't feel as scared with it because it's plastic. But also the interesting about the X700 is that like it's not fully mechanical, and you do need batteries to run it. For me, it was a turn off, but I specifically got this camera because it sort of gives you like examples. I'll see if I can find pictures of what I'm talking about, but it basically sort of lays out the aperture and the shutter speed that would be optimal to take the photo in front of you, right? Like it sort of does that for you. And I basically wanted to sort of build my eyes so that I can be able to learn and be able to spot those things automatically. And for me, I'm very visual, so I need to see the conditions for certain shutter speeds and aperture in order for me to understand what's happening. So I figured I'll get this camera, I'll use it to sort of be able to spot which shutter speeds I need for certain like lighting conditions. That way I'd be able to train my eye to do that without it. And so yeah, it's great for that. I also really looked into specific lenses for it. Currently I have the MD Roker X, which technically I've never used because when I got this camera, it came with like a cheap lens. The photos are still really great. Again, what I really like about Minolta cameras is that they have this sort of like grittiness to them or crunchiness to the photos. So it's like when I want a bit of grain, when I want a bit of like crunchiness, this is what I go to. And so it's really good for that. But this lens in particular, I haven't been able to use it because it's jammed. Minolta cameras are always jamming. Every single Minolta camera that I've had, the shutter has jammed. And there are two that I still have that I do intend to get fixed because I love these cameras. And I like, the whole point of a film camera is to like keep it forever, or at least keep it as long as possible. So it's like, I don't really believe in like getting a new one because this one is broken when I can just fix it and I can like tailor this specifically to my needs. So yeah, I would just rather fix this one instead of just like getting a new one. I don't really care how much it costs. It's better for me to be able to tailor this to my specific needs than to get a new one and have that break for the same specific reason. So yeah, here are some photos. Here are some examples of the photos that I've taken with this camera. Like I said, it does have like a graininess to it, but the lens that I'm using is a cheaper lens. It's not this one. I've heard really good things about the Roker X, which is why I got it, because I wanted to like play around with it, and I really wanted to invest in this camera once I realized that I liked it. And I was like, oh, maybe this can't be my like, or rather it can't be like my go-to camera for little things, because I actually really like this camera and I want to use it in my creative roster as well. So that's the Minolta X700. I really dig this camera. I also do think that this is a good like beginner's camera as well. Again, it's not fully mechanical. You do need batteries to be able to use the shutter, and it's Minolta, so it's possible that the shutter may jam. But I have heard that it's because of certain like plastic elements in the camera. So like if you were to get it serviced, it will be replaced with like more sturdy parts, which usually prevents that from happening further. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And if you are interested in getting this camera, just keep that in mind. The next camera I want to talk about, kind of like, so these two are more recent. I think I've got these within the last 2 years or so. Like the other one, Penny, I've had for a while, and then I've had multiple versions of the Pentax K1000. Same thing for Minolta. This is the same Minolta throughout, so it's like I haven't bought different versions of this one. This is the original, and I've had that one for about like 3, maybe 4 years. So these cameras are cameras that I've gotten within the last year or two. So the next camera I'm going to talk about is the Exakta. This is the Exakta Yagi Dresden Barracks 2A. It's important that I say the whole title because this is a very specific camera and the very specific version of the camera that I was looking for. Technically, the very specific version that I was looking for has a very specific lens with it as too. And the first Exakta that I got had that specific lens. Unfortunately, the lens needed to be cleaned on the inside. I didn't want to service the camera, especially because I was going to be moving soon. So I just ended up selling that one, unfortunately. But I got really, really lucky on Facebook Marketplace, and I was able to find someone selling this exact camera along with the other top to it, which I'll explain more. And it was for a really decent price. Even though it wasn't the specific lens to it that I wanted, it had everything else that I needed. And so I just decided to go ahead and buy it. And I can always sort of like scourge the internet for the specific lens I'm looking for. Now, I don't like Nikon, but I love the idea of the Nikon F3. I love that it's a 35mm, but it has like a look down viewer. But I don't really like the way that Nikon photos look. So as much as I love the idea of it, it just wasn't something that I was willing to forego. So when I was on TikTok one day and I saw the Exakta, I fell in love. I am a very tactile person, so I love it when things make sounds. It's just music to my ears. It's beautiful. What can I say about this camera? I don't know. It's a camera, I want to say from like the 40s or the 50s. It's a very practical camera. There are so many elements to this. I want to say that this too was also sort of like a camera for like reporters. I'm sure you're noticing a theme here, but like it was one of the sort of nifty things about it is that like you were able to sort of cut the film. So at the bottom of this part, there's a little screw that you have, and it's basically a knife. And if you unscrew it a little bit, you basically can like, hold on, a little more. Oh, this was really tight, wasn't it? Oh, there we go. So you can screw it and then you would pull it down to cut the film that you were using. People did this because, let's say, if they were recording instant news and they needed to get those pictures out ASAP, they would just sort of cut that portion of the film, roll it into the canister, because they did make empty canisters for this, and then it would send it off. That way the remainder of the film could still be used or saved for something else, which I think is just genius. There's also like a self timer on this camera. There are super slow or extra slow shutter speeds. A lot of people say that they have an issue with like the left side shutter thing, but I don't really. It's a slight adjustment. It's really not that big of a deal, at least not for me. I also think it's really cool that they have like you can close it so that you don't accidentally shutter it. Okay, and then I had a really slow moment. Okay, so this detaches. If you press this little button here, this will detach, and I have the other top to it so that you can just pop it in. And then what I just realized, because I rarely use the other one, is that it works almost sort of like a 120. You have to advance the film in order to be able to look out of the viewfinder. So the lens that I was talking about, this is a Carl Zeiss lens, so it's still a really, really good lens. It's just that the specific one that I wanted allowed you to sort of, how do I explain it? Let's say that you were putting your shutter, you were closing your shutter really, really tight. That lever at the bottom would allow for the back of the lens to still open, so that it can still get as much light as possible while still having your aperture set at that specific number, which I think is just genius. So genius. And yeah, I'm gonna look for that lens as much as I can, because I think that's just such a genius thing to do. Here are some photos. I haven't taken as many photos with this one. Again, this is a more recent edition, but the photos that I do have of it, I think are still really good. I still really love it. I would say this is more sort of intermediate, not necessarily expert, but definitely intermediate, like bordering on expert, just because, again, there are a lot of different technicalities, and you would have to really sort of like research the camera in order to use it, certain aspects of it. And it's just good information to know depending on like what you're able to do with this camera specifically. Oh, also fun fact, if you've ever seen Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, this is that camera. The more you know. And so the final camera that I'm going to talk about that's on my specific roster, again, is a more recent addition. And I haven't had it for that long, but I love it so much, though there are some things that I would love to change about it. And so that is the Yashica. This is the Yashica. It's a rangefinder. I want to say it's the Electro 35. It's a rangefinder. It is my first rangefinder. And funnily enough, I remember when I was first looking up film cameras, I remember seeing things about rangefinders. And at the time I was just like, that sounds like a lot. No, thank you. But as it turns out, I think rangefinders, for someone like me who's very stubborn and doesn't want to like meter for a lot of things, I think a rangefinder is really good, especially because this one has I want to say this is a shutter priority. So it's like the only thing you really have to do is like you set the aperture and then you do the ISO, but the shutter is determined by the camera. They have these little light meters to let you know if it's too slow or too fast. Again, it's powered by a battery, but it does have like a little battery check. Mine doesn't work. The thing about a rangefinder is that you basically kind of just have to line up the little orange aura. Let's call it aura. There's like an orange outline that's gonna appear, and it's like you basically have to keep turning the lens until they all match up, and that's how you know the film is in focus. I probably sound really professional. Yeah. Basically, with a rangefinder, you basically just have to line up the the orange. There's going to be like an orange layer or outline of whatever it is that's in your viewfinder, and you basically just have to like focus until they line up, and that's how you know that the picture that you're taking is in focus, which is great. I love that idea. I love I love the lens. Oh my god. So this is the first time that I've had a 45mm lens. Apparently it's pretty popular amongst like a lot of photographers, but this is the first time that I've ever experienced it. And when I say that I think this is my perfect camera lens, oh my god. And the new cameras that I'm looking to add to my collection, one of my main sort of criteria is that I can place a 45mm lens, or they have like a 45mm lens option to those cameras. So the only thing about this camera that like I really don't like is the shutter sound. It's just not satisfying. I'm someone who really, really loves like I love a good hefty shutter sound, and it just doesn't give me that. But because it gives me so many other things, I've decided that I can forgive it for its transgressions and just accept it and love it for what it is, which is a great fucking camera. Again, here are some photos that I've taken with it. As I said about the Exacta, it is a more recent addition in my collection, so I don't have as many photos with it, but it's beautiful, it's crisp. I can't wait to keep using it and getting better at it, and getting better at my focusing with it. It's a pretty easy camera. Like I said, all you really have to do is line it up. And that's compared to like other rangefinders, which are really, really, really ridiculously expensive. It's like $50. Like you can find this for so cheap. The only thing I would say is that be mindful that there could be a mercury battery in the camera, and you will have to spend hours of research figuring out where you can deposit and recycle that mercury camera safely, because you cannot just put it in a trash can. So the first Yashica G that I had was in perfect mint condition. Like you can tell it was something that her like uncle, I think, had given her and she hadn't used, and it was in perfect, and I do mean perfect condition. The only problem is that it didn't work. It didn't work. So I had to go on eBay and find a different one that did work. It wasn't as in perfect condition, but it wasn't in bad condition. Like this is pretty decent. No, I think it's pretty good. Yeah. So that's that. And now we're going to talk about cameras that I used to own and do not anymore.